Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Bootill, 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 go. Burn it, Bootill, burn it, Bootill, you model fudging forker.
Sorry. So, yeah, I didn't expect to be back at Honkai Star World this quickly, but I'm not complaining, because I love Bootill as a character, from his inability to swear to pulling off dance moves in the middle of a gunfight, and of course his space cowboy aesthetic. But along with Bootill today, we'll be looking at another Galaxy Ranger and a singer, kind of an odd combo, but while this team is mostly only a thing for a short time in game, I think the characters make a decent team, if not a little on the squishy side. Oh, and you guys can thank Dylanero12 for this team, I hope I'm saying your name right, and if you guys want to commission your own teams for me to make, you can do that on my Patreon for the $20 tier. Now let's take a look at the Galaxy Ranger, Bootill. Bootill is part of a group called the Galaxy Rangers, and while there's not a ton known about them due to how spread out they are, and because they don't really function like a normal faction, they're more of a loosely tied group together of bounty hunters and vigilantes that travel across the cosmos hunting down criminals and upholding justice. But despite their lack of communication or coordination, the Galaxy Rangers do have a code of sorts, something that every member of the Galaxy Rangers must follow. And if a Ranger is seen to be breaking that code or someone else is impersonating a Ranger, at least one of them is probably going to come looking. And that code is very simple. Don't bully the weak, and never kill the innocent. This is their bottom line, and the one true thing that all Rangers have in common and are proud to upkeep. As for Bootill, his specific brand of justice is fueled by a need for vengeance. Because long before Bootill took on the name of Bootill, he was just a child lost in the snow of his home planet, where he would be found by two cowboys, Gray and Nick, who would take Bootill in as their own son along with several other orphan children. And they would help raise Bootill into a fine cowboy. And just like his two fathers did for him, when Bootill came across an abandoned child, he did not hesitate to take her under his care, officially becoming an adopted father. Unfortunately, this time with his family would be cut short as the IPC decided that they needed the resources of Bootill's home planet more than they did. And when the locals resisted, things started to get heated. And Bootill decided to take matters into his own hands, sneaking onto the IPC ship to see if there was anything that could be done. Only to witness the man in charge, Oswaldo, give the order that would change everything. That if they resist any further, to use military force. This ended up with the IPC ships bombarding the planet with highly advanced weaponry, killing the majority of people there, including Bootill's family. And this incident not only set Bootill down the path of revenge against the IPC, but it also gave him his name, because Boot Hills are the name for Old West graveyards for cowboys and gunslingers, and after burying his family in one, he decided that Bootill was going to be his name because his past was dead. Now I'm sure that you can tell just by looking at Bootill, he is not your everyday cowboy, because after the events of his home planet and the IPC covering it up, Bootill would go through a procedure that would strip him of his human body and turn him into a cyborg. And while most people that did this didn't survive, Bootill's burning desire for revenge for his family kept him alive, letting him be remade into the Galaxy Ranger we know today. Also, I do have to point out, Bootill isn't not swearing out of like some moral reason, he's really trying to swear. His body just has a built-in filter and he is not a fan of it. Okay, so the majority of that was kinda heavy, forgot we were playing a MiHoYo game for a minute, but this does give us plenty to work with when it comes to Bootill's startup. And being a cyborg, really the best bet for Bootill is going to be the Warforged for constructed resilience and integrated protection. I could also see an argument for Reborn, and I did consider it as an option, but I went Warforged myself. I also went ahead and gave him the Galaxy Ranger background for Savage Attacker, more than fitting for a bounty hunter. This also gives him investigation and deception for skills, so he can better track down the man who ruined his home, and lie his way into Penacony.
Me? I'm Pom Pom.
And I'm judging his stats off the fact that he mostly uses guns and seems to be more agile than strong, literally dancing around a gunfight at one point. On top of that, high wisdom for a man who literally has crosshairs in his eyes, and a decent con because he is 99% machine, and if something breaks he can just get it replaced. And that is the simple part, because now we have to actually replicate his abilities, which obviously consist of his handgun, his gun hand, and the ability to force a 1v1 on top of him being on the path of the hunt, meaning he is able to do a lot of high burst single target damage. Oh, and he also has a thing for kicking people in the face with his boot spur. God, that's gotta hurt, right? So starting off, we are going to focus on his high single target damage and his guns, since those are a pretty big part of his kit. And thankfully, the first class I have in mind for Bootill not only can add just that, burst damage to a build, but also happens to share a name with the Galaxy Rangers, the Ranger.
That's forking right.
And yes, the Ranger is not the most optimal class in 5e right now. Seriously, how did they make it even worse from the 2014 version? but it does still have a few things we need for this build, like spellcasting for Hunter's Mark, one way to force the 1v1 thing, and some features from the Hunter subclass like Colossus Slayer for extra damage, and Hordebreaker is a great fit for Fan the Hammer, letting him make extra attacks as long as one attack is against a different target. We're also going to cover part of his gun stuff here with the Crossbow Expert feat for a +1 dexterity and the ability to shoot in melee, ignoring reloading, and to use 2 of these at the same time if you are considering his handgun and gun hand to be separate things. And there's just one more thing from Ranger that I want here, that being escape the Horde for if he gets surrounded in a firefight, but more importantly is multi-attack defense. If Bootill's going to be forcing 1v1s, then putting disadvantage on the guy that can only attack him should keep Bootill kicking a little bit longer. Okay, now I know I said that was the last thing from Ranger, but
One more thing!
Now unfortunately this is the only class Bootill has that is going to have the spellcasting feature. So I'm going to just take one spell from the Paladin list to round this whole thing out and make sure he can actually force a 1v1 standoff. And that is of course the spell Compelled Duel. Now this does have a save on it, but if the target fails that save, they can't move more than 30 feet from Bootill, and they have disadvantage on attacking anyone who isn't the Cowboy Jojo posing at them. Now the Ranger is a pretty solid start for Bootill, making it easier for him to track down the man who took everything from him. But Bootill still has a lot of other evil to take down throughout the universe. After all, even if he is chasing down Oswaldo, Bootill can't just ignore someone in need. It goes against his nature. So before we get to the bigger stuff for Bootill, let's round out his Ranger levels with a few levels in Fighter. Just enough for the archery fighting style, Action Surge for even more Fan the Hammer action, and a few maneuvers from the Battlemaster fighter, like Precision Shot. And lastly at level 4, a +2 bump to his Wisdom, which should be more important here in just a minute. So after his time as both a Ranger and a fighter, Bootill's next class is going to cover a lot, like his gun hand, his spur kicking, and possibly his ult if you want to say that the gun hand is instead Colossus Slayer from Ranger. Now it is not often that make a character that splits off into 3 different classes, and thankfully the fighter is really easy to jump into, but that still means there's a lot to work with and to look over. But thankfully his next class is going to be his last, and that is oddly enough going to be the Monk. Because not only does Bootill need to be able to impale people with his boot spurs, but surprisingly, the Kensei Monk actually makes a great option for ranged builds with the Kensei Shot for extra damage, and choosing a hand crossbow as his Kensei weapon, meaning that the damage die goes up from a d6 to a d8. Now unfortunately, Bootill's unarmed attacks won't make any use of the next feat we grab unless your DM rules that your spurs change the damage to piercing, but the Piercer feat just gives extra damage on crits for an even stronger ult, and the chance to up the damage even more on a low roll. On top of that, I think the best thing for his kicks is going to be Stunning Strike, purely because that is a unique type of pain. And lastly, the final damage increase for his ult comes from one with the blade, letting Bootill spend 1 focus point to deal an extra die of damage, which in this case is going to be another d8. And just to round things out here, I took Bootill to level 8 of Monk for evasion, and the Sharpshooter feat which will max out his dex, and mean that Bootill doesn't care if you're in his face or 100 feet away hiding behind a car, he's gonna hit you. And when he does, it's gonna deal some real good damage. With a base of a d8 from his crossbow and 4 of those attacks with Action Surge, and then 2 kicks with bonus action Flurry of Blows, and Hunter's Prey, Bootill's going to be doing 7d8 plus 30 plus 6d6 from Hunter's Mark and another d8, assuming the target isn't at full health. And because he can, Bootill is going to put another 4d8 using all 4 of his superiority die for goading attack for a total of 12d8 plus 6d6 plus 30 for around 114 damage if all of his attacks hit. And yes, this is more of a burst thing here, but it's still a good amount of damage. Honestly, I love this build for Bootill, and I love Bootill as a character. He's got just the right mix of silly and serious while still being compelling, and with this build I'm sure he has the tools to someday track down the man who took everything from him.
This is a big deal, cowboy. Of course, it'll be dangerous. How big? IPC big enough.
You have a new bounty. Please process it as soon as possible.
Dangerous? Well, Butch. Dangerous for who?
Well, this place sure is sealed off. No other way.
You know, normally when you think of a ninja, you don't imagine a girl wearing bright clothes and riding around on a skateboard. But here we go. Rappa is an interesting girl, taken at a young age and experimented on by member number 64 of the Genius Society, Dr. Primitive. Someone obsessed with regressing evolution and changing the outcome, usually to monkeys. He has changed entire populations into apes, mind-controlled people of Penacony with a mimetic virus, and a lot more. But he has also created his most dedicated hunter, someone who will spend her entire life searching for him so she can finally put an end to his cruel experiments and bring him to justice. And that is Rappa, the dazzling ninja, who has a bit of a warped perception of reality, or more just herself. You see, while she was being, well, effectively tortured by the researchers under Dr. Primitive, being experimented on with different samples of DNA from other species, there was one person there that at least had some heart, someone who seemed to care for Rappa and offered her an escape. Not a physical one, mind you, but a mental one through a series of ninja manga. And through a combination of her age and the mental trauma of all the experiments, she would become fully engrossed in these manga, letting them shape her identity and perception of herself, causing her to believe that she wasn't a test subject, but instead made her believe that she was undergoing some sort of ninja training, which may or may not have helped her actually push through the experiments. But eventually, Dr. Kucha, the man in charge of Rappa, would grow so attached that when he was going to be reassigned for being too lenient, he instead shut down a ton of security features and even managed to contact the Galaxy Rangers to come save them. But due to both the experiments on Rappa and her believing that she was a ninja, she actually managed to take out a large portion of the research station on her own before even a single ranger arrived. Now, when the Rangers did arrive, Rappa was rescued, but was still scarred by her time there, vowing to hunt down Dr. Primitive and bring him to justice, which of course is why Rappa joined the Galaxy Rangers. Now, thankfully, this does give us some stuff to work with when it comes to her build. Like, despite all the things done to her, Rappa is still a human. As far as I'm aware, those horns are just part of her hat, so you could maybe argue tiefling if they aren't part of her hat, but she doesn't have them as a kid, so I'm just gonna say human. And with that comes the alert feat, since it just kinda seems fitting for a ninja-style character. I also gave her the same backstory as Bootill, the Galaxy Ranger, this time with some different skills though. Now, being a ninja, Rappa is going to be a dex-based character, but her other stats do differ from Bootill with a higher charisma, but slightly lower wisdom. She's also dumping intelligence, again, not because she's dumb, she just needs it a little bit less than everything else. Rappa also has a very unique style when it comes to her fighting, with graffiti and street art like splash effects trailing along behind her weapons, and honestly I'm not sure if they're real or just part of her imagination. But honestly, in a world like Star Rail or D&D, the things being purely in your imagination doesn't mean they can't hurt other people. Now that, and the fact that she can seemingly control her weapons with just her hand signs, does give us a surprising amount to work with. But before that, let's look at what else we have here. And most of that is just ninja stuff in general. She's pretty stealthy when she needs to be, uses paint cans like smoke bombs, is extremely mobile, and hits pretty hard on top of all of that. And all that kinda leads me to the rogue. Yes, the monk could have actually done some ninja things with the shadow monk, but that just doesn't really seem to fit here mechanically, and I'm not gonna have multiple Kensei monks in one video. So rogue it is, plus I have some more plans, trust me. But first, being rogue does let Rappa put expertise in performance for her rapping alongside with perception. After all, it's hardly worth sneaking around if you can't see anything yourself. Of course, she also gets sneak attack and cunning action as well, but the real thing we want here is at level 3 with the psychic blades from the Soul Knife subclass. Just looking at how she fights, this is the perfect fit for her ult, using hand signs to control possibly imaginary weapons to attack her targets. Along with this, I gave her the defensive duelist feat, because if you're not going to do anything else with the reaction, it's a really good grab, but I also want the next Soul Knife feature all the way at level 9, meaning she's also going to grab an ASI at level 8 for 2+1s along with more expertise. But like I said, I really want the Soul Blades feature at level 9 of Soul Knife Rogue, and some other stuff beyond it. The Soul Blades feature letting Rappa hit more reliably and just teleport to her blades, which is great for mobility, and if you want you can flavor it as her riding her skateboard mid-fight. And Rappa is actually going to go pretty deep into Rogue, all the way to level 14, meaning she not only gets Psychic Veil for better sneaking, but the one thing I really wanted this far in, Devious Strikes. Mostly for her smoke bombs / paint bombs, but she could also make great use of the daze option to daze people or just knock them out if she wants to go non-lethal. Oh, and I wanted to grab the Shadow Touch and Speedy feats just for a couple small spells like Hex and Invisibility, also to up her speed since those seemed very ninja-like and fitting. Now unfortunately, none of these features or feats actually add extra damage to her Psychic Blades. Sure, they can proc sneak attack, but they're still just 1d6. And you know, what's a better way to add more damage to Rappa's Psychic Blades than to just take them again? Because the Whisper Bard has a level 3 feature called Psychic Blades, and they actually deal more damage than the ones from the Rogue. This also comes with the benefit of being able to scare people with her rapping if she wants, but I really just wanted to add more blades to her Psychic Blades, get a final +2 to her Charisma, and some spells to cover various abilities. Mostly just things that feel pretty fitting, like Hypnotic Pattern, Hold Person, Color Spray, and Featherfall, along with Vicious Mockery. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest here, until this team was commissioned, I didn't really know a lot about Rappa, but she is a fun character regardless, and she makes for a fun build with plenty of damage. With one good attack, Rappa is going to be dealing 1d6 plus 5, then 7d6 sneak attack, and on top of that a total of 4d6 from both Psychic Blades, and lastly 2d6 for each proc of Hex, for a total of 14d6 plus 5, or around 61 damage each round. And she can keep this up for quite a while, or just hit you with Hypnotic Pattern and you won't really be able to do anything about it. And while Rappa's burst damage isn't quite as high as it could be, she is more than equipped to keep evil at bay, because that is what the Dazzling Ninja does.
Great one above, eradicating evil to my last breath. My bow drawn, no turning back. My heart shall remain unmoved. Whoever follows the way of the ninja is a ninja. I've made my decision.
Okay, so no sponsor this week, as far as I am aware. That might have changed. Did it? No? Okay. So again, this video is sponsored by you guys and my patrons. You guys are awesome, and if you want to support the channel, Patreon is the best way to do it. You can get these character sheets along with other things. I'm still working on some new stuff that's just taking a while to get off the ground. But for now, let's get back to the video. Okay, now we just need to find Rob... Oh. This is not good. This is gonna cause some issues. Look, I don't want to deal with Sunday when he goes all angry god because his sister is dead.
Welcome to my world. Renew your definition. World so high.
Oh, okay, never mind, we're good. Jokes aside, Robin is a really fun character, not only because she hijacks the music for her best-selling single, or because she is a physical damage character, meaning it is just as likely that she is blowing your ears out with her music as it is that she's just flinging her mic at you. But she's actually a celebrity in-universe, with characters like March 7th being big fans. March even had a bit of a fangirl moment when meeting her in a hotel. She is also a huge part of the Penacony storyline, but to mostly avoid spoilers, I won't really be going too deep into that and just focusing on her backstory, abilities, and a few standout things that she can do. And obviously, we're going to start with her backstory, or at least what little we know. Robin and her older brother Sunday are what's known as Holovians, humanoids that come off as bird-like or even angelic due to having wings sprouting from the back of their heads, and they often wear halo-like accessories. No way of knowing if that's like a species-wide thing or just Robin's family, but either way it gives them a very recognizable look, specifically the wings, which can be hidden with some effort, but are still a pretty big part of what makes them unique. But beyond her species, Robin is a very well-known singer, traveling throughout the universe performing, doing interviews, photo shoots, and the like. And while Robin enjoys a lot of this, especially when she's able to help people through her work, or inspire them to make more music, she also has to deal with the darker side of stardom. Yes, she probably makes more money than God, but at the cost of her mental and sometimes physical health. With camera crews following her every move, she has zero privacy, so she runs. She disguises herself as best as she can, and, you know, now that I look at this clip again, I think she kills those guys. Anyway, Robin wants to run away, wants to abandon it all, but stayed not only because she still wanted to help people, but because of all those that had already helped her in the past. Now she not only has continued her singing career, but teaches others to play instruments, sing, and express themselves. It even looks like she volunteers at a children's center in some way. And all this leaves her background pretty cut and dry. The entertainer is the perfect fit, giving her acrobatics and performance along with the musician feat for better singing. This part obviously can't cover the trauma and other stuff she went through as an actual entertainer, but that's more for your backstory. Moving on though, her species is pretty fun as well. Given the Holovians are seen as angelic, I think the Aasimar is a really good fit. All the other options for bird-like races are more bird than person, and this one lets her heal as well as grow big wings mid-song. But her stats are where things might go a slightly different direction than you might think, with Robin having a higher wisdom than she does charisma. Not that her charisma is low, 14 is still great. Oh, and 15 con, purely due to the fact that she got shot in the neck and not only survived, but was able to continue her singing career thanks to a blessing from Harmony. Now you might think that I'm planning on making Robin into a bard, since, you know, her whole thing is singing. Even if there is a huge fight playing around her and she is the only one left standing, she's still singing. And while that is what I thought about doing at first, I think a slightly better fit is actually the cleric. Alongside her angelic features, she is closely tied to the path of Harmony, and in combat buffs her allies with music, increasing their damage and crit rate. And while the Valabard does do stuff like this, I went down a different route because the Domain of Peace Cleric has a feature called Emboldening Bond, linking several allies to Robin, and when those allies make an attack roll, they can add a d4 to their roll. And the reason I went with this over the Valabard here is mostly the limits of the Bard. This bond lasts for 10 minutes, and she can link up to a maximum of 6 allies. Meanwhile, the Valabard does give a higher bonus to attack rolls, but it needs to use its bonus action, which it only gets once per turn, to do so. And on top of that, the Bard only gets so many Bardic Inspiration die per fight. So overall, I think Emboldening Bond has a better effect. On top of this, the Peace Domain comes with spells like Heroism, Sanctuary for Robin herself so she can stay safe, Beacon of Hope, and other buffing aura spells. But the main thing I want to focus on here comes after the main events of Penacony, when Robin, Rappa, and Bootill are fighting Dr. Primitive's monkey lackeys and the people that he has under mind control. And in order to free all these people from mind control, Robin becomes a DJ, starts a party, and gets everyone dancing. Even Bootill. And I think this is a pretty big key telling us what level Robin is if we're considering her music here to be a spell, which I am. And yes, I know Counter Charm is actually kinda good now and would have worked great here, but just like Combat Inspiration, that is one target at a time, so I think my point still stands. Also, splitting her levels up here would have made it really hard, if not impossible, to get something else that I want. Anyways, this sudden performance Robin puts on points me towards a combination of spells. First off is Greater Restoration. It's a free remove condition, which includes Charmed. But along with this is the much higher level spell Holy Aura, giving every creature in range advantage on any and all saving throws, including those that would happen under a constant mind control effect. And having this spell alone puts Robin at level 16, meaning she gets pretty much all the features from her Domain of Peace, including Balm of Peace for some free healing, Protective Bond allowing allies to protect her or each other more easily, and with just one more level up to level 17, she gets Expansive Bond, upping the range from 30 feet of her emboldening and protective bonds up to 60 feet. And jumping that many levels does kinda mean there's a lot to go over, but Robin is a lot stronger than you might think. Again, she was able to counteract the mimetic virus from Dr. Primitive that even Bootill and the Trailblazer fell victim to. And I think that's one of the reasons why the people of Penacony look up to Robin so much. She's more than just a celebrity. She is an icon of harmony, something that all the people of Penacony can look up to. A symbol that binds them all together, even if it's only for a few minutes to listen to some really nice music. And this extends beyond Penacony. She is a universally loved musical icon. And partially because of her goals to keep inspiring people to express themselves through music and follow their dreams, I did give her the Inspirational Leader feat along with Warcaster for obvious reasons. She's going to be pretty close to the front lines to make sure her music is working, and then finally a +2 bump to her Wisdom and 1 to Charisma. And there is just one more thing, since this does go along with the lines of her buffing your allies and helping them deal more damage. That is the Boon of Fate at level 19, which will let her add 2d4 to an ally's attack roll once per fight. Now obviously, Robin isn't going to be a damaging character. Sure, she does have some options if push comes to shove, but she's really more about making her team stay alive and helping them hit the enemy that much harder, even if that enemy happens to be her big brother.
Music.
There seems to be another kind of sound coming into the Order's symphony. Penacony's first and last disharmony.
Okay, yet another commission team done. Once again, thank you to Dylanero12 for commissioning me to make this one. These characters were really fun to make, and while not the perfect team since they kinda lack a tank, Robin more than keeps up with that with great defensive and offensive buffs, on top of just being a cleric and having good healing. They could also maybe benefit from a certain Masked Fool, but she is going to be a Patreon exclusive character, at least until we get enough Masked Fools for me to make an entire team. So I guess just one more since we already have Sparkle and Sampo. And as always, I want to thank my testers for looking over these builds, my editor for doing amazing work on the actual videos, and my patrons for supporting the channel. You are all awesome. If you want to get your own team commissioned, you can do so with the $20 tier. That is a once per month thing, only one person can get it. But that is going to do it for today. I will see you all next time, and as always, have a wonderful day. Hey, wait a minute, has this been playing in the background the whole time? Where's my sound system?